There you go. Well, welcome back to another video. We just thought we'd give you a small holding update because we haven't done one for about 8 months. We're just heading into August, and to celebrate 4,000 subscribers, we just thought we'd give you a look around and see what's happened in the place in the last 8 months. So the last time we were stood here was January, and we were talking about the lambs. As you might have seen on the January video, these two are our pet lambs here, and these two we picked up what are going to be our freezer lambs for this year. We had the ones we had on the January video, we processed them about March time and they went in the freezer. So these ones are going to be the replacement. For some reason, this little one my daughter picked was the runt of the litter, and you can tell the size wise of her, she's doing nowhere near as good as the other one. And we've overwintered the lambs this year all through the winter. Normally we have to take them in the barn because we have like too many and it just ruins the ground. But we've kept numbers really low because of that, and it's worked out absolutely brilliant. The ground's still thriving, there's plenty of grass for them, and these will stay with us now till about March next year until we renew them with some more lambs. But we don't know what we're going to do about them. Probably just get another couple of lambs or 3 if these two aren't enough, but we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it. But on the lamb side, that's worked pretty well. They've still got plenty of grass and they'll stay out hopefully all winter.
Now, one thing we were talking about on the New Year's Day video is whether or not just reducing the number of the lambs to 2 would be sufficient to supply us with meat moving forward. And I know it's a little bit awkward having this conversation while we stood here next to the lambs, but moving on from that, we've been eating down the freezers, everything that was in there really successfully, and they are actually looking lower than they ever have done. But I have to say, it is actually working out really well. Obviously, with all of the other vegetables that we're growing and the other things that we've got access to from a small holding perspective, meat-wise, it's working out really well.
So on the January video, while we're down here, we talked about a lot of things that we wanted to get done this year. We had a lot of tidying up to do, we had a lot of rubbish to get rid of, and we had quite a few jobs on that. We're not quite through the year yet, but we might manage to get them all done, we might not. But one of the jobs was we had a few felled trees down, and I wanted to get all them cut up, tied to the logs pile. So early on in the year, I managed to get them all, well, not all of them, but I managed to get a good lump of them cut up and ready to chop into manageable pieces and put on the log pile, which is over there. So we were just looking around the other day and we've worked out we should have about 7 winters worth of logs up to now. That's with these ones as well. So we're well stocked for logs, and we won't need to go out buying any coal or any more fuel for the fires in the house. So we're pretty sorted in that department. Right, we'll move on to the pigs and go and give them the rest of the strawberries out the plot. Get them, all your mates eating them all. Right, so last time we came down here in January, this was all lush grass and empty of pigs. So it did end just there where that fence is. Just over here where the fence comes halfway down. This is where it ended. So they had this originally. We got these in April. Well, the beginning of April when we got the lambs, because what we do is, because we both work full time, we plan out and then take a week off in April, or Tracy takes 2 weeks off, I take a week, and we plan out when we're going to get all our animals for the year, and then we just cram it into that week and we do as best we can to get them all on that week. So we got these, I think, the beginning week in April, and had this all churned up literally in a couple of months. So we have to extend it over to what you can see over there towards the gate. We did that a couple of months ago, and that was pretty much like this is here, around here. So as you can see, they've churned all that up really well as well. I'm going to get in at the weekend. I've got nothing else for you. So I'm going to get in at the weekend and I'm just going to pull all them nettles out, because that's just the only bit they're having trouble with by the looks of. I'll pull them all out so they can get right in, getting rooted all out. And that's the plan, what we do in here. So next year we'll probably come this way so they can take all these weeds and nettles and all the horrible stuff out as well. And then what we'll do, put it back to grass with some proper paddock and pony seed so that the animals can graze on it again. We'll go show you what we did with that over there in a second. So yeah, these are now what, only 4 months old, 5 months old. So these will be with us maybe for another month or 2, and then they should be up to weight and ready to go in the freezer also. We never keep pigs on here over the winter. We always get rid of them before the winter sets in and we get them in the freezer. Like Tracy said, we are running really low on our meat stock at the minute. I think we only have joints left off our last pigs. We've got no sausages, no bacon. We're really looking forward to having these back in the freezer. But for now, we'll enjoy them while they're here.
Warm wheat, yeah? Warm wheat, yeah?
Well, that was the last of the strawberries from this year's harvest. So a better way to use them than give these guys a treat. From now on, from the garden, it'll be veg only. Because we're all out of fruit nearly. Yes.
Well, one thing's for sure, this year has been an extremely strange weather year again. In the last video you guys saw how wet and boggy it was, and that was obviously in the winter, so it's kind of expected. But to be quite honest with you, this is the first few days of proper summer that we've had, and we are literally at the very end of July. It'll probably be the beginning of August by the time this video goes out. And something else that's happening in this field where we keep the horses, we've never ever had ragwort weeds before, but as you can see just behind Stephen there in the yellow plant just there, there's lots of it in this field this year, and we've never ever had it before. Now obviously that can blow in from all places, or the birds can drop the seed, etc. But we are starting to see things changing and happening here on the small holding that's definitely been affected by the changing climate that we've got as well. Anyway, we're going to head on over to the paddock where Stephen told you in the January video what his plans were for transforming that. Hello my darling, what have you been doing to this? So just on the way over there to the paddock, you can see horses have got, well, one's got the fly mask on because with the heat and the humidity comes the flies, and it's been quite a difficult time for these guys in the field. But they weren't in the field last time we were out, obviously, because as Stephen said, we don't overwinter any of the animals outside where we can help it. Obviously the sheep are an exception based on what we've just been saying. So these guys now have been enjoying the time out for the whole of the summer. We'll hopefully keep these outside until at least late October, but the weather will dictate, because at the moment it's actually quite dry.
Well, I don't know if you can see me under all this grass, but the last time we were here, I don't know if you've seen the video when we're running around with the grass seed. Oh, this is garbage. We're going to have to move on. We're not going to have enough. I think we're doing the best by hand. This is where the pigs were for the last couple of years, and it was just all, we had it covered over with membrane, weighed all down with Harris fencing and bricks and pallets, and it looked an absolute mess. So we bought some paddock, pony and paddock seed, and just give it a chance. I give it a good rotivate over, raked it all in, threw a load of grass seed down, and this is the result. Couldn't have asked for anything better. It's got a few weeds in it, but I honestly couldn't have asked for anything better. We've not cut it yet, we're just letting it get established this year, which we have left a lot of the paddock. We've only cut like around the edge, which for the chickens, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, I couldn't be happier with how this has turned out. I mean, it's just thick, lush, green, probably a bit too lush and green for the animals to eat. It'll probably make them sick. We will start cutting it or letting the animals lightly graze on it probably from next year, but for this year we're just going to leave it and let it get established, because I can imagine it's still being a bit weak on the roots. But yeah, couldn't be happy with the way it's turned out.
And just beside where Stephen's been talking about the grass seed in the paddock area there, next to that is where we showed you last time, where we had our shed that previously got flooded. Now the idea was that we were going to use this area for the chickens, but unfortunately, as the leaves on the trees have grown and as the weather has been so strange, as I've been saying this year, we've decided that we're not going to be able to use the area that we're designated for the chickens, because it's just simply not going to be fair on them. It is just far too shady. If I turn around there, it's that bit there behind those trees. You can't even see in it. Far too dark, not enough sunlight there for them, and certainly no grass. Now, no grass is a problem in other areas as well, but at least it's not quite as dark. So let's have a quick look.
Like Tracy said, behind me is where the chickens used to be there, and as you can see, it's pretty much pitch black. It gets no sun during the day now, especially with all these trees who've got the leaves on. So one of the jobs that wasn't on our January list was to move the shed because we were going to use it here. So we had to use it. We've done a video on that a few videos back, but I'll show you what we've done with that in a minute. So the only other job to do down here is we're going to check all this fencing down, and as you can see at the back there, that's our perimeter fencing, which is just a load of this Harris fencing, and it doesn't look very pleasing to the eye. So what we were talking about doing was using a lot of like thick hedging trees or bushes or like laurel or whatever we can get to try and grow it up against that fence, and it'll just make it a lot more private and a lot more pretty to the eye. And plus, that's the farmer's track into his field, and he won't be able to see in and we won't be able to see him. So win-win all round.
And if we spin around from where we've just come from, this is the shed that was actually in that dark area that Stephen's just been talking about. He's completely transformed this, and we did do a video on it where you'll see this was just a one door shed, but he's actually turned it into a double shed now and put a dividing wall in the middle there, because here we've got on the right hand side, or to my right, these are the chicks that you guys might have seen that we got at the end of August. So these guys are Welsumers and Rhode Island Reds, and on this side these guys are adult Rhode Island Reds.
And these are our meat birds for our future chicken production. Now, as you can see, a lot of them are looking a bit worse for wear on the back ends. We used to have 3 cockerels in here with them, and we only have 8 hens, which seemed to be a bit too much, so we actually done 2 of the cockerels for the freezer last weekend. This was an experiment that we were going to try because we wanted to get away from using like the factory farm chickens, and it works out great. We've done 3 cockerels now in total, and they've averaged out at like 2.5 kilos, so it's like over 5 pound bird, and that's dressed as well, so that's like pure meat. So yeah, I think it's going to work out fine. So in the other pen over here, we've got a mixture of Welsumers and Rhode Island Reds. The ones with the green tags on the feet, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but they're all the Rhode Island Reds. We've just put them on so that when they grow and we do mix them in with the old ones, we know which ones are which, so we can swap them over and swap out the old and keep the fresh all the time. That's why he shuts up. So on the January video, when we walked around this area, there was nothing here apart from rubbish and mess. There was bits of tin and metal and wood, and everything was everywhere. It was just like a dumping ground. So we have managed to tidy all that up. We've put the shed in, we've put new fencing up there, but this on the January video was supposed to be for the ducks. We were supposed to put the ducks in here, and then the old chickens somewhere else and the Rhode Island Red somewhere else. Well, plans change, so we weren't expecting to put the shed up here, but it needed to be moved. What we thought was a better idea was to put these bigger Rhode Island Red birds in, because they don't seem to jump over fences as much. They don't really like to get up high. We are still having quite a problem keeping them in for now, even though they've got all this paddock to go at. They still want to be in there with the ducks, but I did put a higher fence in to try and stop them, which it has deterred them a little bit, but then they're just going out round the corner and round the other way, so I'll have to do something about that. But it made an ideal opportunity to separate it off for our chicks for a growing area as well. So we just picked up this 1.2 metre high chicken wire off eBay, and we just made like a 25 metre run for them. They are scratching it down a lot now, so I think at the weekend, another weekend job, just seems to get more and more as we're going through the video. What I'll do, I'll take it down from over there, and I'll just make it longer and thinner so they have some fresh grass to run on all the time. So like we said, we get these Rhode Island Reds for our meat birds, and the Welsumers, we keep them for egg layers because they're just prolific. Yeah, like 1 egg a day every day, especially in this time of year, so they're ideal. As you can see, they've trashed their feeder, so we're just going to get it refilled and bring it back out. And just while we were doing that, I was going to give you a tour of where the ducks go, but as you can see, they've just gone to bed. It's getting quite late in the evening because it's just been absolutely mafting today that we haven't had a chance to walk around yet and get a video done. So we've waited till now. It's getting on for late evening, so it's a perfect opportunity to get out and get it done.
Mafting translates as very warm.
Like I said on our way back to the barn, this was just a dumping ground in January, and it looked an absolute mess. And this fence was only about this high with some little pallets. They're still over there ready to move because I've just put this up last weekend. But it's wide enough. I've put a gate on here wide enough to get the lawnmower through, so I can get the lawnmower straight through here into the paddock when I need to with a little trailer on. I've just moved all the rest of the rocks and the rubble and everything last weekend, so looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it, and it hopefully keeps the chickens where they're supposed to be.
Just to get your bearings of where we've come from, behind us there is the gate that we've just walked through that Stephen has created, and we are in the duck area here. And if I turn around, that's the paddock that we've just walked through, and I am stood in front of one of the most important places of the smallholding, which is the muck heap. This is absolutely essential from a gardening point of view. This is all of the muck that we come out of the stables, or all of the animals' bedding that's not straw. We tend to put straw elsewhere because it doesn't rot down quite as quickly. But all of this muck is from all of the animal beddings, as I say, and this will rot down in time for winter, when it'll then get transferred onto the vegetable plot, and that'll then allow us to grow in for next year's crops. And if I turn around past the cheeky chick that's escaped from the barn all the way around here, then this is the entrance to the barn and where the greenhouse and the vegetable plot are.
Well, we've just come back in the barn to get the food and collect the eggs, so just thought I'd give you a quick update in here. Not much has changed in here since you were in here last time. These pens are doing a fantastic job. We've still got the Welsumers in this one. The only thing we did change, we put our old hens into this pen, and we put the Rhode Island Reds out there where you've just seen them in the paddock, because these old hens just kept escaping, because they're a lot more flighty and a lot more agile. But one thing I can say, they make a lovely colourful box of eggs.
Now maybe you saw our January video where there was a little clip of our 2 pygmy goats leaving from this pen to go outside through that hatch that Stephen's created. Now those hatches are working absolutely fantastically, by the way, but the little pygmy goat that came out in that clip with the black face was called Olive, and unfortunately we lost her to something earlier on in the year. She just wasn't strong enough to survive an illness that she'd contracted. Now, Apple was Olive's lifelong companion, and they've grown up together. In fact, they were sisters, and we couldn't leave Apple without a friend to live with, and we weren't prepared to put her outside with the sheep for one reason or another. So earlier this year, Stephen and I made a road trip to go and pick up this little lady here, who was advertised as a dwarf pygmy goat, but when we got there we realised she maybe wasn't as dwarf as what we were expecting. However, we still picked her up and brought her home, and she's been with us ever since. So this little lady here is called Hazel. It took them quite a while to get used to each other. Hazel is quite a dominant character, and Apple is quite the opposite, to be honest. And there was a little bit of headbutting that went on, but nothing too serious. So they're doing really well, and I'm pleased to say that that is now a brand new friendship. They've both found where they're supposed to be with each other, and they really are starting to thrive, so that's fantastic news.
So another quick job that we knocked up in the barn was this old greenhouse that we had covered in mesh. So we've already used this for when we got the lambs in April, when it was a bit cold and wet. We had a heat lamp in here, we put these doors around just to stop the draft getting in, and they lived perfectly in there until it was time for them to go out into the field. So we'll probably use that in the winter for if we have any chicks, or we overwinter any chicks or chickens, they'll go in there also. So it'll get plenty of use, I'm sure, but at the minute, it's a nice quiet time in the barn. As you can see, we're at the back of the barn. This is the hatch where Tracy's just pointing to from inside where the goats are, and this is the area that we've created for them. If you're new to the channel, you'll realise we love pallets here on the Smallholding. They're a dead versatile tool to use, so we use a lot of them. So we just created a pallet fence down to there, and we put up some Harris fencing around this edge to stop them getting out, and created them a little platform to play on. They don't use the slide, but they love to sunbathe on the top of there. And we have got another plans to make a gate in one of them pallets there, so that they can on occasion go into the paddock, but there's far too much grass in there for them. They'll just make themselves sick. So we haven't done that at the minute, throwing ideas about on what to do there. But at the minute, they seem happy in here. They've got plenty of food. We give them extra hay to eat, so they're loving it. Right, we're just coming from the goats now, from the back of the barn, and we're heading through our little orchard area onto the main plot where we've been doing the bulk of the work so far this year. So this is where our old chickens are living at the minute, and in here we've got 2 well-established coup and apple trees, 2 well-established eating apple. We've got a well-established cherry tree over there, and a big damson tree here. These were all in when we moved in, so we've not done anything to these. We've trimmed them back a few times, but that's about it. And pretty much every year they're prolific with apples and damsons.
As Stephen says, these apple trees have been around a lot longer than we have, and you can see it's the perfect place for the chickens to be in, because even though they don't have the grass growing, all of these apples from the June drop, when the apple tree naturally drops fruit that's too much for it, is ideal for all of the chickens to be enjoying, and is certainly a good supplement for where the grass is missing. There's also all of the nettles and other things. We put in lots of clippings in here for them, so it's been working out really well.
So many apples are blocking the gate. Right, well, we've just come through that gate there we've just seen in the background to what I think is one of our biggest achievements we've made while we've been living here. So where I'm stood now, this trellis to the right of me, going all the way down to the perimeter fence, this used to run straight across here where I'm stood now, but over the years with the wind and it's been getting battered and things growing up against it, a lot of the posts were snapped. So we made the decision to pull it out and reroute it and just make an extra orchard slash growing area. And we couldn't have asked to make it any better really. So what we did was we just put some more posts in. We got the perfect amount of trellis. We didn't need to buy no more. All we had to buy was the posts. We've put the trellis in there. We put the little shed in the background, which has got our summer chairs in, which we haven't sat in here yet because we haven't had a summer really. And then we've just created a whole new veg plot orchard area. So it's going to take a while to get established. Like I say, we've only just started this year and we've only just put these trees in. So we put 2 plum trees in, we put 2 apple trees in, we put a mulberry tree in, a fig tree in. We've also got black currant bushes up at the back there, which we've replaced, which we've relocated from elsewhere. Then we picked up some railway sleepers off Marketplace, which we were going to use in another area, which I'll show you in a minute. It didn't work out, so what we done was we created more beds in here, and they're working out absolutely fantastic. They're proper booming with veg and other stuff at the minute, which I didn't expect it to work out as good as it is. So I'm absolutely chuffed and over the moon with this area. So where the fence was, which ran down there pretty much where Tracy stood, all this area here where I'm in now was 3 foot of nettles, weeds and just anything like that. So what we did was we just ran the lawnmower on a slow setting over the lot, covered it in this ground membrane and tagged it all down with about 200 pegs, created this little path here to a gate into the main orchard, which we've got over there. And yeah, it's just worked out fantastic. This area that we stood in here wasn't even planned actually in the January video, so we're going to turn around and show you the area that we had planned in the January video. Right, well now we're stood in the area that we did plan on creating this year. So this area in January had nothing in it apart from the 4 compost bins there in the background that I built late last year, just ready for this year. It also had box hedging. I can't remember on the January video if the box hedging was in or I'd already took it out. Basically it just had 2 lots of box hedging around the outside and nothing. It was just all mud. It did have a few fruit trees in before that which just weren't doing anything, so we took them out, replaced them onto the riverbank, and then this is what we created. So we put 3 brand new long thin beds in. Tracy will go through what's in them in another video when she gives you a proper veg plot too, but this is where we do our main bulk of our growing area for our food for the year. So we put 3 4.8 metre by 1.5 metre beds in up here with a path down the middle of them big enough to get a lawnmower down. And then you can't really see these ones because the pumpkins are taken over, but I think these ones are 2.4 metres by 3 metres, 2 of them with a nice wide path down the middle down to the compost bins. We put 4 compost bins in so we can turn one into the other and then one into the other and keep it all rotated like that. We haven't done that yet. That's another job to write on the weekends list. But everything in here seems to be thriving. Like I say, I'll let Tracy talk you through what she's got going because this is her main area of expertise. But I'll hand it over to her now to finish the video off and show you what we've got going on in the rest of the veg plot and on the small holding.
So like Stephen says, he has done the new bits that we've put in this year, and behind me is the plot as it was when we originally moved in. Well, I say as it was, structurally it is, but the beds have completely changed. The only things that were present in this plot when we took on this property were a few rhubarb plants, which are just down to my right here, and then an asparagus bed, which is further up that you'll see in just a moment. So if we kind of walk along, you can see what we've got going on here. This bed on the left here one of the original ones, as I say, is full of herbs, and we've got beans growing in here, lots of pollinators for the bees and all of the other things that are going to help our plants grow. And then opposite on this side, these here are actually all fruit bushes that we've got going on. So we've got rhubarb, which is a perennial plant, absolutely fantastic from a smallholder's point of view because it takes no looking after whatsoever for us anyway. I have heard that some people struggle with it, and it comes back year after year. Then next to that we've got some currants, so we've got the black currants, the red currants and the white currants, and then right in the middle we have got summer and autumn raspberries, and on the other side, which we'll see in just a second, we've got gooseberries. So this bed here provides us with a heck of a lot of fruit that can go into the freezer. We do a lot of syrups and things that we preserve for winter that you can pour over different things, be yogurt, porridge, in a smoothie, whatever it might be. So this bed alone fills up the freezer with a lot. Bed here you can see we've got a lot of our winter cabbage in, so we've got red cabbage, which will be for the Christmas time, and more rhubarb, which was we didn't think we'd have enough for some reason, but we certainly do. And then if you come further up this way, you can see they're the gooseberry bushes that I alluded to already, and all of the other beds that we've got going on. Our winter brassicas here, this is another nice big bed. We've got all kinds of things going on here. Brassicas being your cauliflower, your broccolis, your kales, things like that. But I've also got a row of celery in. Now, we don't eat celery raw or anything, but it's really good to have in to give flavour to things like soups and stews, again, in the winter. We've got a whole new potato bed going on here. I've never grown potatoes in this bed, but that is another staple from a smallholding point of view. Now, next up, we've had the strawberries, which is what you've just seen us feed the last of to the pigs. The season there is over, but that is another fantastic crop that we have ready for the freezer, and other ways that we preserve them. Another thing that we've done with the strawberries this year is dehydrate them. I've done that a couple of times, and that's worked out really, really well. Now, this wall here is the Jerusalem artichoke. So we made the mistake of putting Jerusalem artichokes in when we first moved in, and somebody did say the thugs, they'll take over. I thought, surely not, they can't be that bad. Well, trust me, they are. So they have absolutely taken over. Every year Stephen says, I've got the last one out, and every year, the following year, they come back and prove him wrong. And then the last few beds that we've got on the plot, this is the asparagus bed that I said, these are now ferns because you leave them to grow once the asparagus is finished being cut. And this is one of the beds that was already established when we moved in here. And then Stephen also said that he'd taken out some box hedging. So where you can see this round membrane, that was actually box hedging not so long ago. And we decided to remove those because they take a lot of moisture from the plot, and they take a lot of sunshine away from the other plants as well, and it was inhibiting the growth of some of the other plants. It was a really good decision, so that's why that's got the ground membrane on at the moment to prevent the weeds coming back through. And then these three beds here you can see we're actually working on. So we've got some fantastic onions this year. So there's an example, not all like this, so don't be fooled, but these are going to be for our winter pantry. They're curing at the moment. They've been left out because it's been such a lovely day, and then tomorrow we'll probably take these into the shed, and then all of this green will dry out completely, and that'll be a fantastic winter crop. I'm hoping that we'll have enough for a full year's supply for the small holding. And this bed here, we're right in the middle of working on this at the moment, getting in the winter. It looks really tired and a bit droopy because of the sun that we've had today. These have all been watered, but this is us working on establishing this for our winter crops, because at the end of the day, the crops that we're growing here are all for our family to consume. It's a super important part from a small holding point of view. Obviously everyone wants to be as self-sufficient as possible, and this is just us trying our best. We're a long way off, but one day you never know, we might get there. So we're just back at where we started, where Stephen was explaining the work that he's done for the project that we had planned. And I haven't yet pulled any of these onions from this bed, but I'm going to for you guys, because I want to show you how huge and absolutely fantastic these are, and growing your own can be so rewarding. Look at the size of that. So all of these onions are almost ready to harvest. They haven't quite flopped over yet, so you'll see when they start to flop over a bit like this, that's when they're ready. So you could harvest them now and just leave them to cure, but we think that this onion bed is the best crop of onions that we've ever been able to grow. Now that's some statement, so absolutely chuffed to bits with that. So we'll keep you updated on the vlogs that we do from a kitchen garden point of view if you're interested in that. But just behind the camera there, which Stephen mentioned already, we've got pumpkins and beans growing in this bed. Now over there you can actually see there are some of the pumpkins that are starting to grow, and these will also form what we'll be putting in the winter pantry, because pumpkins, if they're cured correctly, will last you all through the winter. So they're an absolutely fantastic crop to have, along with the potatoes, which these are in this bed here. Now they are looking a little bit trimmed, and that's because Stephen went along with his hedge trimmer and just literally cut along, because you couldn't get down these paths, and it was causing us a bit of a problem when we needed to get through. They are ready. If you come in and have a look, there's quite a few that are already ready to eat, and we have been eating them. We've been working our way along from here, but we're literally coming along every other day, or however often we're having potatoes, and just harvesting the ones that we want. And then we will do a main crop harvest where we'll come along and harvest everything and get them cured for the winter pantry.
Everyone stuck the root.
Now, something that I made myself this year is this bean trellis, which is probably why it's a little bit unstable. We've already got beans growing on it, varieties and things like that I tell you all on a separate kitchen garden tour, but we're absolutely thrilled with this, to be honest. There's even more. These have just caught my eye as well. Lots of different ones, and again, you can eat these fresh, or we'll be preserving them again for the winter pantry. That's one of the key things, that we try and get as much done as we can so that it takes us through the winter, because at this time of the year, at the end of July, beginning of August, everything's in abundance, so you're spoilt for choice on what you're going to be eating. But as you go into the leaner months, obviously everything changes. Now, the last place I want to show you is the first area that Stephen created when we moved in. Now, the area where I'm standing here, we're kind of back to the beginning. If you can see in the background, that's where we went with the sheep. But this area here was just all grass when we moved in. However, there was a greenhouse, which we were absolutely thrilled for, and was a really important part of the sale, to be honest, because I'm not sure that Stephen and I would have ever been able to afford, or I could have convinced Stephen to buy and pay for this size greenhouse. So that was a big thumbs up when we moved to this property. But one thing that we did buy ourselves as soon as we moved in, and Stephen converted this area, which I'm going to show you in a second, was this 6x3 polytunnel. We bought that off eBay. I think it was about £60 at the time, and goodness me, it has really served us well. It is starting to drop to bits a little bit, so maybe next year we'll have to replace the cover, but time will tell. We'll see on next year's video where we plan what we're going to do there. But inside there at the moment, we've got loads of tomatoes that are growing, and they're doing really well. And all of these beds here is another thing that I just wanted to quickly show you before we close out the video, because as I say, all of this was just grass when we very first moved in, and Stephen has created all of these beds out of the timber that we bought at the time, back when timber used to be a lot cheaper. And then we've put down the gravel alongside them, just to prevent any weeds coming through, because that is one of the big problems that we do have here, is the amount of weeds that we've got to contend with. So we do everything that we can to make life as easy as possible in that respect. So the beds that we've got here, the far bed unfortunately is a little bit more shaded, which is why things don't grow so well in there. But then you can see as we move along here, there's a lot of greenery, and amongst the greenery there's a lot of weeds as well, but we'll get to those. And in this end bed here, we've got another staple crop which is doing really well, which are actually the carrots. And if you can see here, we've got all different kind of carrots coming through. I don't want to disturb them too much, but you can see they seem to be growing quite well. Get those covered back up again, being pulled out. So all in all, from a small holding point of view, this size growing space serves us absolutely fantastically. And I think the extension that Stephen's been able to add to it is only going to give bigger and better things to come. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then please do look out for the kitchen garden vlogs. We tend to do them at least every 2 weeks, if not every week, when we've got time.
Well, that's just a tour of our little small holding here in the northeast of England. Just a big thank you for the 4,000 subscribers that we've amassed over the couple of years that we've been doing this. We couldn't have dreamed of having 4,000 subscribers, but like I said, just a big thank you to everyone who subscribes and who watches the videos. We have got a lot more videos in the pipeline, a lot more ideas. It's just we both work full time, and finding the time to do the videos. It's 8 o'clock at night and we're just finishing up this one, so no time to do anything else tonight. So that's it from us, and we'll see you in the next video.